Hello and welcome to the 11th video in the PHP e-commerce series. We're working on Shanto's Boutique and we're in the back end of Shanto's Boutique in the admin area, and we have added the brands, and next we're going to add categories. So let's jump in right away and get started here. I'm going to go ahead and close some of these files from the last video, and let's see. We're going to, inside of our admin area, we want to create a new file. And we're going to call this categories.php. Alright, so now we have a new file there, and let's just go ahead and require our do server document root and concatenate on to that. Oops. Tutorial, this needs to be lowercase, tutorial / man alive, can't type, core init.php. Alright, so now we have our, since our core init PHP is now required here at the top, we have access to our helpers and our config and everything. So now we could use our base URL if we need to, but the next thing that we're going to do is include, we're going to include includes / head.php. We're going to include / navigation.php. We're also going to actually that's it for the moment, so let's go ahead and indent this just to make our code look a little nicer. Skip down a few lines here and we will includes footer.php. Alright, so let's take a look at that. If I go to categories.php now, you can see that we have pretty much the same thing, but we don't have any content yet. Let's just go ahead really quickly and jump over to our navigation file and add this categories into our menu. So we need to open up inside of our includes folder our navigation here, and we'll just copy this line right here and we'll change this to categories, and we will change this to categories. Alright, save that, and now refresh the page, and now we have brands and categories in our back end. Alright, perfect. So let's get started. I think what I want to do is we won't need the navigation anymore. We're just going to work in the categories here, and the first thing that I want to do is we'll just put a page header here so they know what page they're on. So let's go ahead and say we'll do an h2 tag with a class of text, oh my gosh, text center. We'll go ahead and close h2, and let's just say categories, just so we know what page we're on. And then I'm going to add a horizontal rule there after that. Take a look at that really quickly. Yep, so categories is a horizontal rule, and we're just going to continue to build out this page. I think what I want to do is make use of Bootstrap's grid system, and we're going to break this page in half. And we're going to put, on the right side, we'll put a table with all of our current categories, and we're going to color code that table to distinguish between parent and child categories. And then we're going to put a form on the left hand side, and that will be the add form, and the edit form will all be right there. Alright, so let's jump back to our page here. So in order to do that, I'm going to just go ahead and create a div, and we'll just wrap this whole thing in a div, and we will give this a class of row. Alright, so we need, inside of there, we need a div with a class of call for column, and we'll say medium, and we'll say 6. If you know anything about Bootstrap, this is a class that's going to give the column medium breakpoint, but it will give it 6. So in Bootstrap, you have to have your everything has to equal 12. So you have 12 columns or 12 available grids across the screen. So 6 will be half, and then we're going to actually just copy and paste that whole thing there, because we're going to make another one exactly the same. So in this one will be our table, and in this one will be our form. Okay? So let's go ahead and build up the table first. So in order to do that, I'm just going to do table, and this is going to have a class of table, and these are Bootstrap classes, and we'll do table bordered. I usually like to do table striped, which will every other row make it slightly darker background so it's easier to read. But I'm not going to do that on this one because we're going to do our own color coding on that. So we're not going to do that. So we'll go ahead and close our table here. And let's set up our head here. If I could type, that would be fantastic. I don't think that's going to happen today. Okay, and oops. And I'm going to copy that 2 more times because I want to have 3 columns in this table. So the first column we're just going to put category. The next column we are going to put parent. And then we're going to leave the next one blank because that's where we're actually going to put our edit and delete buttons. Okay? So underneath our closing T head now we will do the table body. And we'll just go ahead and close the body. And we're going to use some while loops to populate the body with all of our information. So what I like to do now is just go ahead and put in a row, and we'll put some dummy data in there so it's easy for us to change that to PHP. Alright, so do a table data, and I like to copy and paste when I'm able. So we're just going to put some, for this one, we're just going to put shirts. The parent will say men, and here we're going to add 2 buttons. So just to clean that up a little bit, these are going to be anchor tags. So we'll say href. The first one we'll do our edit. So href will be categories.php, and then we'll add on edit equals, and we'll just say 1 for now. We'll give this a class of button extra small, and then button default. Okay, to style it up a little bit. And inside of there we're just going to use some glyphicons, so we'll do span tags. We'll give this, let's just go ahead and open and close those spans. And we're going to give this span a class of glyphicon and glyphicon dash pencil. Alright, let's save that and just refresh the page. You see that this is only half the page. That's perfect, and we have our little categories parent, we have 1 row, and we have that. So now we just need to add the delete button, which won't be difficult because we're just going to copy this entire row here, and right below that we'll change this edit here to delete, and we just need to change the icon to remove sign. Now, if you want to know where I'm getting these from, I'm not just making them up. If you go to getbootstrap.com, we can go to, I believe, components, and right up here at the top under glyphicons, here's our glyphicon with also a class of glyphcon-pencil, and then in here somewhere was the remove sign. So I just looked through these and found the ones that I want to use, and it tells you what classes to use in order to do that. It also gives you some examples like right below those. So here's how to use those. Excuse me. So they put spans in there, and there's nothing in the spans. And by the way, these right here are for modern screen readers. It will choose to it will ignore these if you put to hidden, so it won't try to interpret that for those accessibility people. All right. So that's pretty much built up. So let's just go ahead and refresh the page, and now we have our edit and our delete button. So let's jump back over and do a little bit of PHP here, and my page will, okay. All right, so right here at the top, after our include, let's just go ahead and do an SQL. Okay, and we're just going to select all from categories. I believe, let's just look at our database to make sure I'm right there. Yep, categories as in plural, and we have ID, category, and parent. Okay, so select all from categories. We don't need a condition there, we're just going to select them all. All right, and then we're going to do a result set equals, we have access to our DB object because we have our core init included, so DB query method, and we're going to pass in that SQL. Nothing new here. So now we have this result, and we can do a while loop to jump down here and replace some of this. So let's see. Let's go ahead and get that going. Right here underneath the body, we're going to go ahead and open our PHP tags and say while, and we're going to close that up, and then down here underneath our last row here, we'll open up PHP and we'll say end while. And I just like to do all of this. I like to open and close everything as I go because I will miss it. I promise you I'll miss it. So for me, that's the way I program. I go back and fill in conditions and everything after I do the skeletons. Just the way I like to organize in my own brain because I'm not that smart. Alright, so in our while loop here, what we want to do is we're going to create a parent associative array. So while equals mysqli underscore fetch a sock, which is a pre-built function that gives us associative array, and we will pass it in result. So now we have this parent array, and what we, you know what, I really messed up. So back up here in our SQL, we do want to have a condition there. We actually want to say, if we go back and look at our database, this parent, we have an ID, and our parent, the actual parent categories have a parent of 0. So we need, so that we know that these are parents, we do need to tell it that where parent equals 0. So that's exactly what we're going to do here in our SQL statement. We're going to say where parent equals 0. All right. So now when we run this, we will only get our parents. So it'll just be men, women, boys, girls. I think that's all we have in our database, but that will be what returns here. So this will run 4 times. So if I just go now and refresh the page, I should have that printed out 4 times, and I do. That's because there's 4 parents in our database. Okay, so one thing I want to do is I'm going to make use of another Bootstrap class. Why not? I mean, we're building this in Bootstrap. If this were going to be a production project, you know, you would want to use your own styles and not make it look exactly like a Bootstrap, a Bootstrap theme. But that's what we're going to do. So we can actually just give this a class and make this equal to BG primary, and I got that from Bootstrap's website. and that's going to give us a dark blue background with white text. Because what we're going to do is all of our parents are going to be this dark blue with white, and then our child underneath these will be, our child ones will be a lighter blue color. So let's just get going with that. So here we are, it's going to print these out. So let's just, first of all, we need to get rid of this static information, and we're just going to make use of our parent associative array here, and we can say parent category. Okay, go ahead and close that out. Adam's not liking my syntax here, so let's see if it broke it. It did not break it, so we're still good. Men, women, boys, girls, and if you looked in our database, the ones with 0 parent are men, women, boys, girls. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. So, but this parent here, instead of saying men, we need to actually, for this one, we are just going to leave this static because we want them to be parents. That's what we want to print in that field for all of our parents. So if I refresh the page now, we got men, women, boys, girls, parents. Now we need to go ahead and fix up these buttons to where they actually have the correct IDs in them and they're not static. So that's really easy to do. All we have to do now is make use of our parent array, and we'll pass it the ID as a key, and we'll copy that right here, and we'll replace this 1 on the delete with that same exact thing. And now refresh the page, and now you can see in the bottom left that these are the correct links now. Perfect. So what we're going to do though is we want to, underneath these, we want to print out our child categories underneath these parent categories. So we're going to do a nested while loop in our code. So we have this while already open, but what we're going to do is right here, before we close this PHP, we need to go ahead and do, I'm going to do SQL2 just because I'm really bad at naming things. You guys are probably so much better at naming things than I am. So just go ahead and do that. So now what I want to do is create a new, within this loop we're going to create a new SQL, and we're going to say select all from categories where parent equals, and then in single quotes what we're going to do is pass in our, well, better not do that. I've had some issues in the past with this, so we're just going to create a new ID called parent ID, or just a new variable called parent ID, and what we'll do here is set that equal to parent. Okay, so then inside the single quotes now we're just going to say parent ID, and just for a little bit of security we do want this to be an integer because that's how we saved it in our database. There's some sneaky people out there, so you're going to want to go ahead and make sure you're on the up and up with that kind of stuff. So clean my code a little bit. So then I'm going to say result, actually I'm just going to put C result for child result. I don't want to get rid of my other statement, so C result is going to equal to database query, and then we'll pass in our SQL2. Alright, and then we're going to do a nested while loop here, and we're going to do this after it prints the first group or the first row. So right here what we're going to do is we're going to open up our PHP tags. We'll just leave this nested, so we'll say while. Okay, and we will close the PHP tags, skip down a few lines, and we'll say end while. Okay, And right here in between there, we are going to create a row, and it's going to be, we'll just copy all this because it's going to be the exact same thing, except for we're changing a few things about it. So we'll just copy that. Here's our row. But here, we don't want to do our parent, but well, first let's go ahead and set up our deal. So we'll just say child now is equal to MySQLi fetch associative array, and we'll pass it in our C result, right? So that's going to be created here. Every time it runs through the loop of the parent, it'll run this with a different parent ID, and we'll have access to that here, and it's going to loop through and print out rows of our parent. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is change the color a little bit. So this class right here, instead of BG primary, we'll put that as BG info. And then right here we have this printed out for category. We actually want to change that to child. And here, instead of saying parent, what we want to do is we want to print out the actual parent name. Alright, so we have access to that already because we're in this while loop, so we could say parent, and we can just say category, right? So that's it on that. And then we just need to change these parents right here to the child ID and child ID right here as well. Alright, so let's refresh the page now, and you can see that what we have here, I screwed up here, but it's working correctly. Let's go back and look here and see what I did. Okay, the reason this is broke is because I selected for it to grab the parent up here, and this actually needs to grab the parent ID. That was a really stupid thing. So if I look at my database, I want it to grab, if I'm on min, I want it to grab this 1 here, and then it's going to check where parent equals 1. So now, instead of looping through that every single time, what we're going to find is we have our actual children underneath these parents. So, and then they say what the parent is with them, and we'll just double check all these. If you go back to the front end of the site, these will correlate exactly with, if you click on our drop downs, these are being generated from the database, and that's exactly when you go to the admin, that's what you're seeing here. So when we add new ones, it's going to actually automatically add those to the front end navigation, because that's the way we built that. So it's going to be really cool. So that's basically it for displaying these. So let's get busy on the form, and we're just going to, we're going to stop this video with adding new ones. We're not going to edit or delete them. We'll do that in the next video because I don't want this video to get too long. But a long time ago I promised that these videos would be shorter, and they've been longer lately. I'm sorry about that. I really don't know how to make them shorter, short of doing several hundred videos for this series, and I don't want to do that. Okay, so now if we just back up a little bit, let's just put a comment here. This will be our category table. Alright, and I'm just going to give ourselves some breathing room, and then here we'll add a comment, and we're just going to put this as form so we know where we're at. Alright, so here we're going to do form, and we're going to give this a class of form. I think that's it. And then we'll do an action equal to categories.php. We'll do a method of post, very similar to the last page. I mean, a lot of this can be the exact same. logic behind it. So it's pretty repetitive, but probably be helpful to go through it again. Alright, so here in our form now, we're going to add a div, and we're going to give it a class of form group. Alright. And then for our form group, we're going to give it a label, and we'll put for equals, the first thing that we want to put is a drop down. So this is going to be parent. And we'll just put that there, parent. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and do our input. And our input is type. I'm sorry, we're not going to do an input. We are going to do a select. And we'll give this a class of form control. We'll give it a name, parent. Because we use the for, we need to give it an ID of parent as well. That should be it. Okay. And then what we want to do is we will give it one option at the top. With a value of 0. Remember, in our database, our parent categories had a value of 0. So we're just going to put parent here as our default option. And then we're going to do a while loop. So just do PHP while, put our colon, close the while, skip down a few lines, end while. Alright, and then we're going to do option value equals, and then we'll close the option. Alright, so now we just need to input this information here and here. Okay, so we have access to this parent right here, but the thing is it's going to, we're going to need to grab that again before we do this down here. So that's fine. Let's just what we're going to do is we're going to say parent equals MySQLi fetch sock, and then we're going to pass it in our result from this earlier. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Alright, so that passes in the result, and now we have this parent associative array here. So for our value, we could just say our value is going to be parent, and we'll give that ID here, and we actually need that to be echoed out. Okay, so that's going to be the value, and then for the actual name that's displayed, we need to echo out parent and category. Alright, so let's refresh the page. It's going to break. Well, it doesn't break. I mean, this works. We have our default parent if we're creating a parent. Then we also have women, men, boys, girls. That's from our database. So that's working. But now we don't have this table anymore. So in order to fix that, all we need to do is we need to copy this. There's probably a better way to do this, but for now we're just going to copy this, and down here right above our while loop we will paste that here. So now if I refresh, we still have this available to us, and we have our categories, they're back. So that's working. So now let's add our input box here. Okay, so back up to our form, and we're going to, underneath this div, create a new div with a class of form group. We'll give it a label for category. All right. And we're just going to say category. And then we'll give it an input this time with a type of text. We'll give it a class of form control. That's all Bootstrap there. An ID of category, and we will give it a name of category. For now, we're not going to give it a value. We'll give it a value later in the next video when we are going through and doing our edit, because we'll have to change that anyway. So the next thing I want to do is add one more div, and this is going to be class of form group as well. Alright, so here we're just going to do, an input type text. We'll go ahead and give it a name. Nah, that's not necessary. Let's just keep it real simple. We'll do value, and we're going to say add category. Okay. So let's take a look at the page now. Refresh it. And we have our parents to choose from. We can add a category. And here I just need to make that look nicer. So in our input, we do need to have a class. We're going to say a button, and let's do button success, and refresh the page. There we go. Alright, so that's our basic form here, and let's just go ahead and give this form a legend. Right here underneath above this first form group, we'll just say legend, and let's put add a category, and refresh, and there we go. Our legend gives us this little header, and we have a horizontal rule. And if this is responsive, if we lower it, that pops down below the form. So on a mobile device, it would look more like this, which is perfect. And then as the screen size gets bigger, you can see that it's fully responsive. That's thanks to Bootstrap. Alright, so now we just have to add the categories. Well, we got to make this form work, so we're going to do pretty much the same thing we did in the last video. Up here in our PHP tags, let's just go ahead and add a process form comment. And so what we want to do is if is set $_post and not empty $_post. What's going to happen here? Okay, we're going to process the form. The first thing we want to do is we want to check if category is blank. All right, let's spell that right. So just another if statement here. So we have well, let's go ahead and make sure we're sanitizing everything. Okay, so we have, let's just say parent is equal to sanitize. We make use of our sanitize function here, $_post parent. Okay, and we'll do our category equals sanitize. I spelled sanitize wrong right before that, so we'll fix that in a second. Say category. There we go. So here, what we can do is we can say if category is equal to a blank string, what do we want to do? Well, we want to add to our errors, our errors array. We're going to say the category cannot be left blank. Please fill out. And we'll just leave it as cannot be left blank. Alright, but one thing we need to do is create that. So up here, let's just go ahead and create our errors array. Let's make an empty array there. Okay. So that's it. If the category is blank, it's going to say this. Alright, so now let's check if it already exists in the database, which is a little trickier. If exists in the database, we have to add another if statement. Okay, and what we want to do is let's see. Let's go ahead and do SQL form. I don't know. That's just a bad name. So SQL form equals, and what we want to do is select all from categories where let's see, select all from categories where category, damn it, that's supposed to be lowercase, where category is equal to category. Okay, and this is important to add this, and parent is equal to parent, because we want to have the ability to have shirts under each category, but we don't want 2 shirts under men or 2 shirts under women, but we might want to have shirts under men and shirts under women. So that's why we had to do this. So we're selecting all from that. So then what we can do is go ahead and do our we'll just say f result here equals db query, we'll pass it our SQL form. Alright, so then we could say count equals MySQLi num rows. Alright, and we'll just pass it in f result. So it's going to tell us how many are in the database with those exact match right there. So what we can do now is here we just have to say if count is greater than 0. So if there's one that exists in there, that's going to equal 1, or it'll never equal 2 because we're checking unless we manually add it in the database. So we'll say if count is greater than 0, we're not going to allow them to add it. So we're going to say errors. I'm going to concatenate onto that error. We're going to say, let's just print out category here. Category, and then we'll concatenate on space already exists. Please choose a new category. All right. So then what do we need to do? Well, we need to print that to the page, but we're gonna do it a little differently, I think, because if you look at the front end here, I don't want this to print across the top, the errors. I just want it to be above the form. So in order to do that, let's just go down to right here above the form, and we'll actually, why not, we'll do it underneath the legend. We're going to add a div here, and we're just going to give it an ID of errors, and we'll just close that. We're just creating an empty div there because we're going to plug in the div there if that exists. Okay. All right. So what we want to do is I'm going to add another display errors or add to. We'll just put or update database. All right. So that's just going to be an if statement and an else. All right. So what we're going to do is if not empty errors. Okay. Then what we're going to do is display the errors or update database. Okay. So let's set display equal to, remember we had our display errors that we built in our helpers file, so we'll just put that equal to that. So this now is going to be equal to that HTML code that's returned from our helpers file. Okay, so what we need to do is we actually let's break out of PHP right here. Okay, we'll jump back in here. All right, just there we go. And what I want to do is add some script tags here, because I'm going to use jQuery to plug the HTML into that. Okay, so what I want to do is say jQuery, and inside of here I'm going to say document dot ready. So basically this is when the page loads, when the page is done loading, and we have to do that. So that we're just going to, what happens, we're going to do an anonymous function. Okay, and inside of this anonymous function here, we're going to do jQuery, and what we want, this is selecting, so what we're going to select is our ID. We called that errors, so it's going to select the div with the ID of errors here, and we're going to do HTML function on that, and inside of there, well, what are we gonna print in there? Well, here we're going to open our PHP tags, and we're going to echo display, just like that. And actually all of that needs to be put in single quotes, just like that. Okay, so let's just test that, make sure I didn't make any stupid mistakes. Yep, syntax error, line 19. Yep, I forgot my semicolon right there, so I wasn't expecting that if statement to end. I told you I always forget those semicolons. Alright, so here, if I just hit add category now, nothing happens. So let's go ahead and inspect our, hit that again. Okay, I'm not getting any errors in my console. So our form's not submitting. That's because I have text, our type equals text here, and that needs to be submit for our form. That's a stupid mistake. So now we have add category here. So now if I click that, we have the category cannot be left blank, displayed right there above our form where we wanted to. But we do have an undefined variable now of parent on line 13. So what's up there? Let's go back up here to 13. And that's because my parent is in all caps, and so that needs to be lowercase. So now we shouldn't have that undefined error, so let's just, okay. So if I refresh the page and I leave this blank and just hit add this, the category cannot be left blank. But what happens now if we try to add min? Well, min under the parent should give us, yep, min already exists. But what if we try to add dresses, okay, and we try to add that into the min section? Well, that should work, okay. We didn't get any errors because there isn't addresses in men, but there is addresses in women. So what if we select women and do dresses? That should give us an error as well. Yep, dresses already exist, please choose another category. So it's checking if it's, you know, it matters what parent you're in. You can't have the same category in the same parent category, but you can under parent. If we try to add min, we already have a min, that's a parent category, but we don't have gifts with parent. So this is all working, but so now we just need to actually add this to the database, which is super simple. We've already set up everything to do that. So right here in our else statement, what we want to do is, let's just do an update SQL. Okay, we'll make that equal to double quotes, and I'll do my semicolon. So we're going to insert this into the database. So we have to use insert into categories. That's the table we want to insert into, and then we'll do some parentheses and then values parentheses. Okay, so what we need to do is right here in categories, we're going to do category as the first field we're inserting, and then the next one was parent, and these actually do not need to be in single quotes. We don't want them in single quotes. Okay, but our values, they are going to be in single quotes, and we need to do our category first. So the first one that it's expecting here is category, and the next one is parent. So it's going to take the ID of the parent. So now we should be able to, if I try to add min, we're still going to get that, but if I try to add gifts, which doesn't exist, if I go down here now, that did not work. Yeah, that did not work. So let's look at our code real quick. Yeah, of course it didn't work. I mean, we built the query here, but we didn't actually execute the query. So now we just need to say db query, and I'm having a very off day today. Update SQL. Alright, the next thing that we want to do is actually redirect the page. So we're going to use header, and inside of single quotes we're going to say location colon categories.php. Make sure we do our semicolon there, and we'll refresh the page. Alright, so now if I try to add min, it's not going to let me. And if I try to add gifts as a parent, should be able to. So if I, yep, there it is, gifts, and you can see it's highlighted blue and it is a parent. So now underneath gifts, let's just go ahead and select, and now you can see that GIFs is available in our parent dropdown because it's a parent. So let's just, under GIFs, let's add, I don't know, home decor. I don't know if you spell it like that or not, but we can always look that up and change it later. So now on the front end of the site, we actually have a new menu item called GIFs, and if I drop down, we have our home decor there. So now we have the ability to add new categories and menu items. Okay, and let's see if we refresh the database. We now have GIFs and home decor added, and you can see that they have the parent IDs associated correctly with them. Okay, so that's it for this video. Just a quick recap here. We created this categories page and we listed out all of our categories. We created a form to add new categories. We did all of our form validation to make sure that they're not leaving this blank and that it doesn't exist. And if all that is fine, it adds it to the database and updates everything. So I hope you enjoyed this. Sorry that it was a little rough, but if you did enjoy it, please comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video where we're going to make the functionality of editing and deleting the categories. Alright, I'll see you in the next video.